Welcome to part 2 of Kate's scoliosis story. Hopefully this will be the final part. I'm going to try to not make it too long. So in part 1 we left off with I was stating my curvature at the time of when I found out that I would probably need surgery. So we were in the doctor's room and he broke the news that I would probably need surgery. And he made it sound like it was entirely in my parents' hands, though. That it was either I got the surgery or I didn't. There were, no other options. But he said that if I didn't, he made it pretty clear that within a year I would be bent over and it would be really a lot more difficult to have the surgery if I waited any longer than necessary, because it was, the curve is just going to take off from there. It was, meant to not maintain. It was meant to get worse. And I did not want it to get worse. I didn't want to be bent over and a cripple or anything, but I had to do something about it. But at that point, I wasn't in that mindset of, oh, I have to, handle this maturely and be realistic and do what's best for me. I cried. I cried hard. And he left the room to give me some space with my mom and dad. And I bawled like a baby. And then after that, I took a few weeks to think about it. And it still terrified me. And I can't even really describe how I felt. I was just so bummed and I felt awful and really intimidated by even just the thought of surgery. So I couldn't even picture myself getting the surgery. It was unbelievable. And now that I'm sitting here with the rods in my back, it's a lot easier to say you'll be okay, because you will be. But when you hear it after all you've done and how far you've come, it's really, really tough on you. It really is. And so I'd been fighting scoliosis for about 8 years, 7 years wearing a brace pretty consistently, full time, and with scoliosis on and off the radar as quick as it could be, and but never really a serious concern. It was always in the cards maybe, but it was never really on my mind. It was just something like, hey, I'm gonna wear this brace for a few more years, and when he tells me to take it off, I'll just go on with my life. Life happens, and I had to get the surgery. And so he told me the news in November that surgery was definitely an option, and it had come to that point whether I needed it or not, and I desperately did need it. And given a little more time to think about that, I contemplated, the possibility. I just put it on the table, and I thought, hey, it might happen, it might not. It would be really great for me. And if I didn't have the surgery, it could be really dangerous. I would not be able to really live my life as much as I want. I wouldn't be able to live the life that I'm meant to. I wouldn't be able to, fulfill my destiny or anything. This could stand in my way in a lot of things. And, with that on my mind, I went to my mom and dad and I said, I think that this is the best option, and they had really been pushing for it. They respected my decision, but honestly, if I had chosen not to have the surgery, they would probably, try to convince me this is the best option for you, because it really is, and it's your decision. But you really have to think who it affects, what it could affect, what the possibilities and results will be, and put your feelings and emotions on hold just for a second and think about the consequences of what could come of the surgery and what could come of not having the surgery. Weigh the pros and cons and decide for yourself with all the reason and logic behind it, not just based on your fear of the surgery. Because once the surgery is over, it's done. There's pain and everything, but that part of the journey is behind you. Back, gone. So, with that tough road ahead of you, you got to worry about that. You're not worried about the surgery anymore. And so that's really what motivated me to think, hey, let's just get this over with and see what happens. Let's just go for it. So my parents scheduled another appointment because the doctor had told us to call him back when we made our decision and what it would be, and we could possibly schedule the surgery then. So they called the scoliosis office, and they said, hey, we're going to go forward with the surgery. We think it's the best option, and he agreed wholeheartedly. Because he's also the surgeon as well as my scoliosis doctor. He had been for about 4 years. Not going to reveal the name or hospital or anything, but he's a really, really, really great doctor, a really esteemed hospital. So I was in great hands. I knew that I was. The problem was that I was nervous. I was beyond terrified, horrified at the thought of surgery. Still was. Not anymore, of course, but it was a tremendous feeling that I felt. It was not fun at all. So we went around early December, I think, to the doctor's office to schedule the date of the surgery and just go over the specifics and make a few plans. And so we did, and we met with one of the secretaries, I think, who schedules the dates of surgeries, I suppose. And she just gave us a calendar, and she said, okay, so what date do you want? And then it really kicked in. I'm choosing the date of my surgery. I'm choosing the date that I'm going to be, on the operation table and get rods put in my back. This is the day that I decide the date that this is happening. This is actually happening. Pinch yourself all you want. It's real. that was scary. So my parents were all for wanting the surgery to happen before Christmas so that I could avoid skipping school too much, because there's Christmas break, which lasts about 2 weeks. So there's that, and then it could happen before Christmas, so just get it out of the way beforehand. But my birthday is in January, and then Christmas is December 25th, so I wanted those 2 days for myself without being in pain or in the hospital or anything like that. I wanted those 2 days for myself, and so with that in mind, they asked for the earliest day possible. The earliest day from December, every single day was occupied with surgeries of all kinds. And the earliest date was January 28th, 2014. And that was around 2 weeks from my birthday. And so that would give me enough time to live my life for about 2 months before I had to go forward with the surgery and let it happen. So I got what I wanted, and I was happy. It wasn't too close by. It was going to be around 2 months in the future at that point. So I decided to just live my life, put it off in my mind. I talked to my teachers about it and said, hey, I'm going to be absent for a while, so if you could give me my work beforehand, that'd be great. And so we all talked about, the future and when I would be absent, but it still hadn't really, it had kicked in, but you don't actually, and you know that it's going to happen. It's one of those funny things. You know it's going to happen. You know what the outcome will be. You know you'll be just fine, but it hasn't happened yet. And the whole emotion and revelation that comes with it actually happening is unlike anything else. It's crazy how different and otherworldly that feeling is, because it's shocking and it's appalling that you're walking into the hospital. So the days flew by, and before I knew it, January 28th had arrived, or no, January 27th. My last day was January 24th, which was a Friday. So hold on, January 28th was a Monday. So my last day was January 25th, which was a Friday. Thursday was January 24th. So I got all of my makeup work that I would need for the first couple weeks of my absence. Did a little bit over the weekend so that I wouldn't really have to worry about it after the hospital stay. On Sunday, I knew that I had a pre-op. A pre-op is where you go to the hospital the day right before your surgery, and they take you on a tour of the hospital. They go through the procedures of what will happen during your stay at the hospital, like they don't really go into the specifics of what happens in the operating room. They can tell you if you really want to know, but I prefer not to know. I didn't really want to know until after the surgery. I didn't want to be scared out of my wits any more than I already was, because I was terrified. I'll tell you that much. Like, sitting here right now with a smile on my face and rides on my back, you won't really believe me, but I can tell you honestly, I was really terrified. We went to this pre-op, which was on Sunday. Surgery was the next day, and oh no, I was really. Oh, and I may also be off about the dates, so I like the dates of the week. But so 27th was the Sunday. So my mom took me to. I'm thinking that it was on a Monday. I don't know. Ignore me. So the 27th, whichever day of the week that was, we got in the car, drove to the hospital for the pre-op. And this nurse, I didn't really know what to expect, but this nurse started, showing me around. She said, "This is the room where," no. That happened after. I'm sorry. My mind's all mixed up. So the first thing we did, all jumbled up. First thing we did was we went into this room where I had my vitals taken, which is your temperature, blood pressure, things like that. And we went into another room where I got a finger prick so that they had some blood on hand to know what my blood type was in case some blood transfusion had to happen, so that they were prepared for that during the surgery. And then after all of that, that had happened within the course of about 3 hours. A pre-op is an all-day thing. It encompasses your entire day from about early morning to mid-afternoon. I got home at around 3. It was a long day. About an entire school day of sitting around, waiting, being pricked, crying. I'm sorry. Being in conferences, taking a tour, and being nervous. Just all of that. Yeah. So that happened, and so then we went out to lunch, and I was really nervous, and I was talking to my mom about how anxious I was, and it was a mess. So we went to this place called Panera Bread Company or something like that. We went to Panera's, and it's got muffins, it's got bread, it's got soup bowls, like bread bowl, and salads and all sorts of stuff. And I was not hungry. My nerves and anxiety had attacked my stomach and were quelling the eagerness to eat because I was starving, and it made me want to puke. So I walked into a delicious restaurant and I ordered a salad. I'm not proud of that. And I'm also not proud of the fact that I ate like maybe 5 leaves of lettuce because I was really nervous. And so this is all being talked about because you will be nervous, and I just want to prepare you for the fact that you may not be hungry, you may want to feel like you want to vomit, you may feel indescribably anxious, and that's so natural, that's so normal. Don't think that you're the only one out there that feels like that. You're not. You're just like everybody else in having the surgery. And I know you're not like everybody else. You are having the surgery. You are you. This is your surgery, not their surgery. And I felt the exact same way. That was my surgery. Nobody else really felt like I did. It was my feelings, but they're not unlike what other people feel. So don't think that what you're feeling is weird or wrong. It's natural. You'll be okay. And so after we got back from the lunch, we sat down in this conference room. It was really tiny, probably about the size of my bedroom, probably about half as wide though, and about as long. And it had this nice long table, and with a bunch of empty chairs surrounding it. And it was my mom, me, and this nurse. And she was really nice and polite. and she started talking about the surgery, and at that point the waterworks started kicking in. Alright, this concludes part 2. The 15-minute limit is coming up, so I'll continue this in part 3.